Hey guys, and welcome to this Reaper tutorial. Today we're going to have a really quick look at the project settings and then saving a project. So firstly, to access your project settings, Option Enter or Alt Return on Windows, and it is also available in the file menu. I'm just going to go Option
Project Settings.
Enter now.
Hertz, if unset, hardware default.
Okay, so with this dialog, like a number of dialogues in Reaper, it's a little bit out of order. So there's 5 tabs in here. General, Media, Advanced, and a couple of other ones. But they're not the first thing you come to in the tab order or the voiceover order. However, what we are on at the top here at the moment...
48000, checked project sample rate.
So if you want to set your project sample rate to a specific number, which I have in this case, I've got that checked. I want this project to be
48000, combo.
48 kilohertz.
Hertz, if unset, hardware default will be used.
And as you can see that if you don't set that, it will just default to whatever your hardware is set to.
Unchecked. Force project tempo / time signature changes to occur on whole samples.
And as I said, there's going to be a pretty quick look at here. I'm only going to look at a couple of the options. There are, like with many places in Reaper, there are many options. The next bit I want to show you is the time signature.
Project BPM.
So project BPM.
30.000.
And I've got mine set to 30 at the moment. Now, this, obviously, if you're doing something musical with your recording or your project, obviously you'll have that set to whatever, whatever is appropriate for the music you're recording. And I think the default when you come into here is 120 with a time signature of 4/4. However, if the project you're working on is one that is sort of vocal recording, like a podcast or something like that, where the time signature really doesn't make sense, this is one way you can set it up such that moving by beat and bar, or beat and measure, makes more sense. So what I want to do is set it such that when I move by measure or bar, it moves by a minute. And when I move by beat, I can move by, in my case, 2 seconds is how I've got it set. So I've got the tempo and the time signature adjusted such that that's the case. So I've got it set such that the tempo is 30 beats per minute.
30.000, content selected, edit, time signature.
And my time signature
30, content selected,
is 30
/4,
on
content
4. Okay, now that doesn't make much sense musically, 30/4. However, what I'm saying here is I want the tempo to be 30 beats per minute and each bar to have 30 beats in it. So as long as you have the first number of your time signature and the tempo at the same number, you know that moving by measure will move you by a minute. And then the next aspect, if for example I had the tempo set to 60 and the time signature as 60/4, obviously there's 60 beats in a bar. Each bar is 60 seconds long, so each beat is going to be 1 second. So a tempo of 60 with a time signature of 60/4 will give you 1 measure per minute and 1 beat per second. The way I've got it, 30/34, so there's 30 beats every measure, so each beat will be 2 seconds. And that for me, for editing audio, is a comfortable way to have it set up.
time base for item / envelope / mark.
So this setting in itself could be pretty much a whole episode, and so we're going to quickly brush over this one.
Time.
I have it for time, that way I can change the tempo without affecting the project. There's some other options
Menu
in here.
checkmark, beats, position, length, rate.
For example, that one, if I have it set to there, if I go and adjust the tempo, it will adjust the play rate, basically, of my project, which I do not want in this case. Once again, if you're doing something musically, the default setting is this one.
Beats, position, length, rate. Time, pop-up button. Time base for beats. Select media tab, 2 of 5.
Okay, I've just skipped through a few there. And here we are on the tabs. We have
Selected project settings tab, 1
project
5.
settings tab, which is the tab I'm in.
Media tab, 2
Media.
of 5. Video tab, advanced tab, notes tab, project start time.
And back into more options that are within the first tab.
0, 0, 0, set 0, project start 1, playback medium, 6 4 sync, pop-up button.
We have some settings here for the playback and render resample modes. So how much calculation do you want the computer to be doing to resample media if necessary?
Medium, 6, render resample mode, HQ, 512, default pitch shift.
The only other thing within the project settings I wanted to show you
Save at close. Dim. Time signature. 3. Select 4. Time. Time base for tab beats. Selected media tab. Video tab. 3. Media tab.
Let's go into the media tab.
Press. Selected media tab. 2 of 5.
So we're in our project settings in the media tab.
Video tab. Project settings
I'm
tab.
just going to move back.
WAV. Audio format. Browse. Button. Path to save media files. Can be relative. Leave blank for same path as project file.
Okay. The first option, or the top option in here.
Path to save media files. Can be relative. Leave blank for same path as project file.
So as it states, this is the path where you save media files. If you have a saved project, okay. Now I've got
media. Content selected.
the word media there. So what will happen is a media folder will be inside my project folder, and any files I record into that project will go into that folder.
Audio format for new recordings.
You can also set here
WAV, pop-up button.
your audio format for new recordings. Now I'm actually going to change that. These are some default settings.
Menu checkmark AIFF, DDP, FLAC, MP3, FLAC,
To FLAC.
FLAC.
So FLAC, if you're not aware, is a lossless compressed format. So you don't lose any quality. It's like having a WAV file, but it is a slightly smaller file.
Project settings tab, 1 of 5.
And we're back to our tabs.
Select video, advanced notes tab, FLAC encoding depth.
And we've got a few more options here.
Recording. 1 6-bit, pop-up button, recording. 1 6-bit, pop-up button, menu checkmark 2 4-bit.
Change that to
2
24-bit.
4-bit, pop-up, data compression. 5, default, pop-up
And we'll
button.
leave that on 5.
Format for apply FX, glue, freeze, etc. Automatic.wav recommended,
We'll
pop-up
leave
button.
that one on the recommended wave.
Default format for project/region render. Not set button. Audio format. FLAC. Project. Selected. Video tab. 3 of 5.
And just to jump back up to these other tabs briefly, we have a video tab. I'm not going to look in there at this stage.
Advanced tab. 4 of 5.
Advanced.
Notes tab.
And
5
a
of 5.
notes tab. Now the notes tab is quite good. If you're sharing a project between people, this is a good place you can go and leave notes for them, saying things like, hey, you know, there's a bit 35 minutes through I want you to have a listen to and see if you want to cut that out. You know, you could leave a note in there in the project for it.
OK. Default button.
Now
Cancel. Save as default project settings button.
we've got that button there, save as default project settings. So I'm going to update my default project settings with the FLAC as the default recording type.
Unsaved project. Reaper V5. No tracks.
So we're back in our unsaved project. And before I save it, I'm going to actually import some media into the project. To import our tracks on Mac, I'm just going to use Command I. For Windows, to get to this dialog, you will need to go through your
Menu bar. Apple. Insert.
Insert menu.
Insert. Media file ellipsis. Command I.
That one, media files. So I'm inserting media files.
Media file.
So I'm just going to get to my home directory.
Applications. Folder. Desktop. Folder. Dropbox. Folder. All working copies. Shared. Folder. Audio pizza. Folder. Latest recording. Folder.
Okay, in here.
Tim Cook letter. Folder. Garth vocals.flock. FLAC document.
Now in this folder, I have 4 different files that I want imported into my project. There's a music track plus 3 vocal tracks. Now, using the insert media option, you can insert all of these 4 files in one go. So I'm just going to select them all. Shift down arrow.
2 items select music track. Sean vocals.flock. Added to selection. 4 items selected.
And I've got them selected.
Out of column. Cancel button. Open. Default button.
And I could just hit enter, but I'm just showing you here we've got a open button, so I'll hit that.
Insert media dialog. Insert
Now,
multiple media items.
Because I've picked multiple files, it's brought up a little dialog here.
Separate tracks. Default button.
And we have 2 options, either separate tracks, so I want each media file put onto its own track, or
Single track button.
a single track. So the 4 files will be all put onto one track, one after the other, okay? Obviously, if you're importing a whole album into one, you might pick that one, but in this case, we're wanting the 4 files on 4 separate tracks.
Dimmed. Minimize. Close. Single track. But separate tracks. Press separate tracks. Default
And
button.
it will be building peaks at the moment.
Close button. Cancel button. Hide window button. Checked. Show this. 47%. 75%. Item 4/4. Building peaks.
There, so it's built its peaks for those 4 tracks. And
1 Garth vocals.
we have them all. Good morning.
1 Garth vocals 1 item. 2 Kayaker vocals 1 item. 3 music track 1 item. 4 Sean vocals 1 item.
Okay, we've got our 4 tracks in there. They've all been imported into the project. Now, I like having the music track at the bottom for whatever reason. So I'm going to move Sean's track up one.
4 Sean vocals 1 item.
So we'll show you how to do that. So remember with Reaper, the context sensitive nature of Reaper, I've been moving up and down through these tracks with the up and down arrow. So I've got this last track, Sean's track, focused at the moment. So if I do a Command X,
1 track removed.
we've had that one track removed.
3 music track 1 item.
And I'm just going
2 kayaker vocals 1 item. 3 music track 2 kayaker vocals 1 item.
paste it.
1 track added. 4 music track
So
1 item.
Command V to paste, of course, or Control X and Control V on Windows.
4 music track 1 item.
And now, as you can see,
1 Garth vocals 1 item. 2 kayaker vocals 1 item. 3 Sean vocals 1 item. 4 music track 1 item.
we've moved that track up. So moving through the tracks, cut and paste. Simple as that to re-order your tracks. Now let's get to the actual save dialog. Command S.
Save project. Save as. Tags. File type. MS. Dimmed.
Now, there's quite a few options in here, and we will go through a fair few of them.
Disclosure. Expanded disclosure triangle.
Firstly, the location for the project will be in the default path that you've set in the path part of preferences. Say that quickly 3 times.
Tags. Tag editor. Back. Forward. Icon. List view. Selected. Column view. Radio. Arrange. Project. Search text. Vertical splitter. Column view. Browser. 1 item selected. Projects. Folder. Group.
Now, for this particular project, I don't actually want to save it in the default location. I want to save it back in Dropbox. So let me go to that location.
In column view. Browser. Projects. Folder. Desk. Dropbox. Folder. List 1 item selected. Shared. Folder. Group. AMZ. Audio Pizza. Folder.
Okay. So I'm just going to save it in the shared folder I have with Sean for Audio Pizza in Dropbox.
File type. Reaper project files. Star.rpp. Pop-up button.
And file type, obviously, we can leave that as it is. We need to leave that as it is.
Checked. Create subdirectory for project.
Okay, here we go. Create a subdirectory for your project. These options on Windows are not in the tab order. Last I checked on Windows. You need to use your screen review mode in either JAWS or NVDA to actually find these checkboxes and check them. Okay, so the settings are sticky. So if you set them, they usually will stay there, but it's worthwhile checking them. On the Mac, thankfully, they're accessible. Just you can VO across them. So firstly, create a folder for the project, which I do want to do. I want all the files associated with this project in the one location. So
Reaper. Checked. Create subdirectory for project.
we have that one checked.
Unchecked. Copy all media into project directory using.
Copy all media into project directory. So anything that is currently in the project, as in this case, the files that I added to the project, do I want to copy them from their current location into the actual project? And typically I would copy them in. In this particular case, I want to move them in rather than copy them, and we have another option for that.
Checked. Move all media into project directory.
There we go. Move all media. So in this case, I don't want to duplicate these files. I still only want the one copy of them in Dropbox, but depending on what you're doing, maybe, for example, you've put some sound effects into your project already, and if you move rather than copy, suddenly those sound effects are not where you think they are in your folder structure where you keep all your sound effects. They've been moved into your project. That's the only copy you have of it. So obviously, depending on what you're doing, think about which option you choose here. In this particular instance, I want to move the files into my project folder.
Unchecked. Copy all media into project directory using.
Now, just jumping back up to the copy all media. If you're copying your media into your project, you also have the option of converting them when you copy them across.
Dim. Unchecked. Convert media.
It's currently dimmed because I'm not copying, I'm moving. For example, if each of those files were WAV files and I want to convert them to FLAC, I could do that here. And once again, if they were MP3 files, I might as well leave them as MP3. There's no point converting them up to WAV or FLAC so that they take up more space.
Format. Dim. Unchecked. Trim media. Tail size. 500 ms. Checked. Move all media into project directory.
Okay, so we're back to our move all media.
Unchecked. Copy rather than move source media if not in old project media path.
Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky to explain, but let me try briefly. Let's say I already have a project. I have media files in that project, all, correctly put away, saved in there. I then add some additional files to the project. Like I said before, maybe I've added a couple of extra sound effects which exist at the moment, not in the actual project file, but exist somewhere else on my drive. So I can do a save as, check this box, and the files that are in the project already will be moved into the new place, but the files that are not already in the project will be left where they are. So it's important to note that when you record files into a Reaper project, where those files will actually go is dependent upon whether or not the project has been saved yet. If the project is saved, you saw under project settings, you could set a location for it there. If the project is still unsaved, by default, it'll go into the recording path set under the main Reaper preferences. When you insert a file, like I did earlier in the episode, initially the files are simply left in their current location. Just some pointers are written to tell the Reaper project where those files are. It's only when you save it for the first time or do a save as, you get the option to actually move or copy those files into the project.
New folder button.
And we have a new folder button.
Cancel button. Save. Default button.
And our save button. Now let's just check back up to the top that there were no other...
Dimmed. Zoom button. Save. Untitled.rpp. Content selected.
And I better call it something. So let's call this one...
Select sheet. Letter to Tim.
Letter to Tim. That's the name of this particular project. So let me just quickly go over these again. So we've set our location.
Vertical splitter. Column view. Files. Reaper. Checked. Create subdirectory for project.
We've told it we want to create a subdirectory.
Unchecked. Copy all media.
In this case, I'm not copying. I want to move.
Dim. Unchecked. Convert media.
I'm not converting anything because they're already in a format I want, which are FLAC.
Format. Dim. Unchecked. 50 ms. Checked. Move all media into.
I'm moving.
Unchecked. Copy rather than move source media.
This one's not relevant in this situation.
New folder button. Cancel. Save. Default button.
Save.
Press save. Default button. Letter to Tim. Reaper v5.
So we have got that one saved. Now let me just jump over to my Dropbox folder and I'll show you what that looks like.
Finder. Dionysus. Home. Desk Dropbox. Folder. Alt. Shared. Folder. List 1 item select. Audio pizza. Folder. List 1 item selected. Latest recording.
So we did have all the files in this latest recording folder previously.
Empty list.
It's now empty because I've moved the files to another location.
List 1 item select. List 1 item selected. Latest recording. Folder. Letter to Tim. Folder.
And they're in the Letter to Tim folder. So Reaper has created this folder for all the files within my project.
List 1 item selected.
In here we have
Letter to Tim.rpp. Reaper project.
our Reaper project file.
Media. Folder.
And a media folder.
List 1 item select. Kayaker. Garth vocals.f. Kayaker music track. Sean vocals.f.
That have all the files within the project.
List 1. Letter to Tim.rpp. Reaper project.
Sean could come in here, open this Letter to Tim Reaper file, and be working on the same project that I am. The great thing about it is I can do some work on this project and save it. It doesn't upload all of these files again. When I save the project, all it will do is update this Reaper file. I don't have to sync those media files. We don't have to move those media files backwards and forwards between us. We can both access the project, make changes, save it, and all that will be actually changed within the Dropbox folder is this one small text file. Okay, so just to quickly go over a couple of things we covered in today's episode, we used Option Enter
File. Project settings.
to bring up our project settings, or of course Alt Return on Windows. When we were in project settings, we discussed setting the tempo and time signature, and we set it up such that when you use page up,
Move edit cursor back 1 measure.
or page down,
Move edit cursor forward 1 measure.
this actually equated to 1 minute. Just have your tempo set to the same as the first number within the time signature. And when you move by bar,
Move edit cursor forward 1 beat. Move edit cursor back 1 beat.
with the command page up and page down, you're moving by a given number of seconds. And the settings we used were 30 for a tempo and 30/4 for a time signature. Now, obviously, that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're doing something musical. Within project settings, we also looked at the recording format and how to have Reaper create a subdirectory for recordings that you make into your Reaper project. We then recovered the Command I on the Mac, and on Windows, you need to go through your Insert menu and insert media files such that you can insert multiple files at once and choose whether or not they are consecutive or on separate tracks. And of course, we covered the save dialog with Command S or Control S on Windows. And I didn't actually show it, but if you want to do a save as, so to invoke the option where you are able to physically import the files into your project folder, Command Option S or Control Alt S on Windows.
File, save project. File, save project as.
Now remember, in your save dialog, you have all the normal options of setting the actual file/folder name, location, and so forth. It'll default to the location you have set under paths in your Reaper preferences. On Windows, you need to use your cursor view mode to set the tick boxes around copy or move media files. But on the Mac, you can just VO through those options and tick the ones that are relevant given your particular situation. Now, I've had one or two people say that they would like to support what we're doing here with the Reaper tutorials and Audio Pizza in general. So I've set up a PayPal page where you can do that. So if you go to paypal.me/audiopizza, so that's PayPal and then .me rather than .com/audiopizza, there's a facility there to actually make a donation, and that will go to support what we're doing here at Audio Pizza. Once again, guys, I hope this has been helpful. Thanks so much for listening, and bye for now.